everybody. You are joining us. This is Murphy Daly from Southern California, bringing you the AV Life. You are joining us, and we're so glad to have you.
James King here, writer for Higher Ed Digital Magazine, the IT and AV column. HETMA board member, co-host of Ask the Programmer. I mean, you Google me, you'll find me, and you are listening and watching the AV Life.
And I'm your host, Tim Van Wert at T Van Wert and at the AV Life Pod from Rutgers University, from HETMA, from higheredav.com, from the list goes on. And you are watching and listening to the AV Life. All right. Welcome back. We've taken a few weeks off. Now we are post Labor Day. We are back to getting ready for start of semester, and I think things are getting a little bit back to normal. With baseball is now going into the playoffs, and going into football season starting tonight. It's Thursday night as we are recording this. So and as you see, I'm wearing my Steelers jersey tonight, and I'm missing my my fellow NFL fan Renee here tonight. So but we do have part of our crew, and we do have two great guests with us as well tonight. First off, before we move any further with anything else, I'm going to introduce them, and then we'll get into our conversation for tonight. First off, I think we determined 4-time returning guest here to the AV Life, Mr. Aaron Peterson. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well. It's a great start to the fall, and good to be back here on the AV Life.
Well, as always, we are glad to have you back. And just so everyone's aware, we're getting a little bit more organized this year on the AV Life. We had sent out a sign up genius for the fall. So if you didn't get an invite and you were looking to get one, DM us, reach out. I will send it over to you. You find a slot that works for you. We will be doing our still to be named debate episodes as well. Formerly known as the firing range. So we are going to take that and change that as we've discussed over past episodes. But those are there. Our holiday party is there, and all the regular episode dates are there as well. So reach out. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry. If I got you an email and you haven't responded yet, please respond. I'd love to have you on. So Aaron responded, and this other gentleman has also responded for his first time here on the AV Life, and brought to us by James King, Mr. Richard Mitchell from Biamp. How are you, Richard?
Tim, thank you so much. Doing great. I'm the Higher Education Solutions Manager for the East at Biamp, and that basically means that I interact directly with a lot of universities and make sure that they are happy with whatever product that they purchase from us. So thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. And as a university who uses your product, we are very happy with your product. So thank you for that.
Subtle plug. I'll take it. I'll take it.
The AV Life is not about subtle plugs. We're all about the shameless plug.
Shameless.
Yes.
I hear you, James. I hear you.
There you go.
Yeah, James has his articles and his podcast, and Murphy's got her books and her articles with Rave Pub as well, and so we don't shy away from the things that we do. So, if Joe was here with us, that he would be talking about all his things too. So, and there's his plug for today, because that's all he's getting right now. So
there you go.
But we're all big fans of Biamp products. I know we've got a system that when I first started at Mechdyne almost 10 years ago was just getting installed in a casino where there's a Biamp system that's been running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 10 years now, and still running strong.
I saw one that just beats it by 1 year, 24/7 in a medical institution. So they had redundant power in case, the lights went out on campus. But it was a little dusty, I'll be honest, but it was still chugging along, which is impressive.
Well, that's that. There you go. That speaks to it, and that's we've got not quite that old, but our systems
So-
are are pushing a few years at this point and still chugging along as well. So
So you're saying buy amp when you need to be apocalypse ready.
I think that's a new tagline right there. for Biamp.
I'm writing that down.
freebie.
It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
pass that over to your marketing team there.
Mhm.
Yeah, we gotta.
When you
And
never
there's
want to buy
there's
another
royalties.
ESP.
There you go.
There's royalty now to be paid to Murphy and to the rest of us here at the AV.
The AV
Life now,
Life will
just
get
so-
a small stipend, monthly payout from
Yes,
our
exactly.
marketing department.
There
for
you go.
being apocalypse ready. That's so
You never know.
Oh,
exactly.
only two things. Only two things to survive a nuclear war: Biamp and Twinkies.
Cockroaches.
and
are going down.
cockroaches. You
Cockroaches.
don't forget about the cockroaches.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those. Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
but once the
sorry.
cockroaches eat all the Twinkies, the Biamp will still be there.
Oh yeah. Oh no, wait.
There you
And
go.
my favorite is Keith Richards. He will be the only other one that survives.
He
So
uses Biamp.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's perfectly fermented, so at this point, he's gonna live a long, long life. So
exactly. So Murphy, James, how you two doing tonight? Since I already asked our guests here how they're doing. So
I'm feeling
Murphy,
pretty-
go.
I'm feeling pretty fancy. I used a new hair treatment, so my hair is extra fluffy.
ooh.
Yeah. It's been in a heat wave here because weather. It's been in a heat wave here in Los Angeles. And it's supposed to stop tomorrow. Saturday. Please God. It's been like 108. And so there's like extra horribleness. So I tried one weird trick from the internet and used rice water in my hair, and my hair is reacting happily and it's extra fluffy. It was just kind of like sprung like a stretched spring for too long. So now it's actually got a little glow and I'm feeling fancy.
Rice water. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ask the internet.
Yeah.
It says it's a protein wash. I'm like, how is it a protein wash when rice is nothing but carbs? But I don't know. All I know is my hair is fluffy and it was cheap and I'll take it.
Hey, it worked. Ultimately, that's what you're after. So,
It is fluffy. Yes.
and how about you, James?
Hanging in there. It's hiring student workers, trying to open a building, and daily stuff as well.
Yeah, I understand that 100%. So, and yeah, we're back to school. Rutgers has been in session for about a week now. We're finishing up our first week. Let me clarify this. And by the time you hear this episode, it will be a week. So we only got started on Tuesday, but I was talking to one of my fraternity brothers about this because he had made a post on Facebook about how it was kind of nostalgic seeing the kids move in and things like that, and like he was having reminiscing days of when he moved into campus, and then it dawned on me when I was walking around campus the other day that I was having a similar feeling, but it was a feeling of excitement because I have not seen the campus this active in 3 years. It would have been fall of 2019 would have been the last fall that had been normal. Like they were doing a full welcome back celebration and they had things outside, and then it rained for like 2 days, so everything got canceled. But it was a good start, and today was a beautiful day on campus, and a lot of things are happening tomorrow now. So a lot of not anxiety, but like the things that had been missing from that higher ed experience were back, and it was a great feeling, I think.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I was
Good.
excited to see that. So it made me feel good about that.
I think
was
it's been
actually-
great to see all the students coming back and doing the numbers for the graduation year, and they're doing the things that they traditionally did historically. It's fun to see all of that material coming out because it's just been dead for like 2 years, where
Mhm.
everyone's had to be really cautious, and now it's kind of getting back to some semblance of normal. Also, I live in a large town that has a very large university. And, last year at this time, it was doom and gloom with the number of cases and all this other thing. And now it's just significantly less. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it seems like it's getting back to some semblance of normal.
Mhm.
Today, I was driving on the campus of Iowa State University, and it's the first time I had to make sure I was watching where students were trying to cross the street, because they just aimlessly walk across the street, whether there's a crosswalk there or not. And so I had to, it's probably one of the first times I actually had to consciously, constantly move my head back and forth to make sure I didn't hit anyone.
Well, I'm glad it's not just at Rutgers that the students are like that. So there's a little bit of comfort in that as well for me. So how about
It's
over at,
everywhere.
I was going to say, how is it over at UNLV, or how, not with trying to avoid students hitting them with your car, James, but how has it been as far as campus energy and things like that?
So I'm not on main campus, so I can't speak on behalf of that. And
Right.
we're very busy, but again, with being a medical school, we're dealing with, students who are coming in, they're taking exams, they're studying almost 24/7. It's not it's definitely a different vibe than was when I was back at the New Jersey school. Completely different vibe. It's getting some used to, but in a good way.
I was gonna ask you, do you miss that? Do you miss that regular campus experience, James?
In a way, yes. I mean, I won't lie. I definitely miss aspects of what liberal arts school, you could say,
Mhm.
gave, but I don't know. I mean, I got to see what happens when the new building opens. There's a lot of buzz around the new building. I mean, a lot of buzz.
Mhm.
Every day we're getting asked if we can give tours, and it's still a hard hat area. There's people chomping at the bit to get into the new building. So
Mhm.
that's going to change a lot, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
You
So, and
have,
it's, I know it's exciting. I know it's exciting getting ready to open up a brand new building. It's been a few years since we've done that
Sure.
at Rutgers, but I've always said that's my favorite part of any AV project is brand new construction. Renovations are fun, but brand new construction that's where it is for me. But so sorry, Murphy, I cut you off.
I'm wondering, this being near Vegas, is one of the walls of this building a full video wall, like the side of the building, like they have in downtown Vegas? So you should have advertisements, a new digital signage kind of venture. James, have you?
No, we don't have any video wall on the outside, but it's gonna
Yes.
be gorgeous when it opens up. There's a grand staircase that has a 16-foot by 16-foot video wall.
Ooh.
So that's gonna be really cool, and it raises and lowers depending on the use case.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I
Very
saw
cool.
that. It reminded me a lot of what we did for Iowa State Student Innovation Center, but that's really cool that the whole thing moves up and down. That's awesome.
Yeah. You didn't see that, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
James, I was hoping you'd say you went in the other direction and you're going old school neon, or
Wow.
the cowboy or some kind of,
That would be
More cowbell?
sweet.
I like that.
Retro.
Just all cowbell.
Oh, gotta love cowbells.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
But I agree. I was lucky enough at the last university I was working at to be involved with a 3-building kind of new construction project. Actually, one of the buildings was being renovated, but there is nothing like pristine new construction where all the cabling and all the conduit is put exactly where it should be or not. And then you have to have really interesting conversations about saying like, oh, you know, we anticipated 1 rack of AV and now we need 4 racks of AV in there. Is that going to be a problem? Like, oh, no, not a problem.
I'll be honest, I'm probably the world's worst interior designer, but like I always love going into those brand new buildings and you're like, who picked white for this piece of furniture? You just know that in 3 years
Oh,
it's gonna look dingy.
Yep.
Or like who would pick that little thing? Because you just know that it's gonna get destroyed in 2 years. And well, you guys in higher ed know that students are probably some of the more abusive people to not just technology, but furniture fittings or carpets and it's like you just walk around some of these things are like, yeah, that's a good in theory on your computer screen when you designed it, but give a student 5 years and it's going to look super dingy.
Like I was recently at a university where they had it looked beautiful, and it looked like if you Googled like university really cool furniture, that these are the pictures that would pop up, and then you would sit on it and the furniture was very uncomfortable. It was and I was like, I think there's a correlation here. Like if you want that furniture to stay nice for a decade, you have to make it basically out of rock and cloth and just put it in these spaces. Nobody's going to use it. It's going to look great for a decade.
It has to be all natural wood
So-
and that weird teal material that they all made all those chairs out of in like the 70s and the 80s. Then it lasts forever. I don't know what it's made of. I don't ask questions, but it lasts forever.
It's all asbestos. That's where it all
There you
went.
go. But no, to go to your point, Richard, they actually did a study on that in prison. They actually learned in their research that when you they wanted to make it so that, you know, the cell prisoners couldn't break the furniture, so they made it very difficult to break it. And they found in doing that, the prisoners got into the mindset that, you know, like, oh, they're animals, they're in a zoo, and they acted out because of it. And they found they put soft and, you know, breakable furniture and all that stuff, the prisoners are actually acted more civil than they did otherwise.
Maybe that's what we should do with our children. We've been giving them tough toys all along, and
Need to
really
give
we should be
them.
handing them fine china.
Well, I know
Yeah.
there have definitely been studies about fast food chains and how hard they make all the surfaces, especially sitting surfaces, so that you can't stay there more than 20, 25
Right.
minutes before you're just like, I've got to get out of here. So it makes sense.
Mhm.
Well, I do know a guy who it was a while ago, but they did video conferencing inside of prisons. And they had to, yeah, you're all nodding. They had to make it very durable, right, to withstand attacks, basically. And I was talking to some of the people that worked on. I forget the name of the company; it doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, they said, yeah, people peed on it a lot. And
Oh jeez.
Oh boy.
Whenever I think I have a bad day, I'm going to remember that as like, you know, at least
Like,
that's
well.
not something I had to deal with.
yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I am unfortunately one that had to deal with something like that. Buddy of mine has a carpet cleaning business, and one of the things that we cleaned was the public library in town. And there was the magazine section where the senior
Oh, my
citizens like to
goodness.
go and
Uh-oh.
sit
Oh.
in those 1970s and 80s chairs with the material that doesn't. Yeah, so I've had to clean unmentionable stains off of those chairs
Wow.
in the past. So yeah,
This is a
or
landmark
questionable,
episode.
questionable. It could go either way, you know, coffee or, you know.
They liked
So-
creamer.
Yeah, we went down a rabbit hole. I'm just gonna stop there.
See, and Richard, I warned you at the very
guess I
beginning. This
started
is what
it.
happens.
This is
It's-
fair. You know,
Hey.
James
So,
gave me a
we-
warning. This is still, he said it would get worse. So I'm waiting for
Yes.
that. to
But we're gonna
I'm
cut-
trying to save Richard from the worst.
Well, all right. How about this? I'm going to be a mood killer right now before we go into the PM minute with Murphy. This is Thursday. This is September the 8th. We'd like to sadly send our condolences to all of our friends across the pond, the loss of their monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. Not only as one from the other side of the pond, but she is a figurehead that has transcended so many levels over her 96 years of life and 71 years of being on the throne, and being one who was basically thrust into a position that at 25 years old was not really ready for it, but she handled it with grace and dignity. And listening to a lot of the reports coming back from that, that was what she's really being known for. And we wish King Charles III the best on the throne for whatever his time may be, and to the future of the British Commonwealth as a whole. So we'll see what happens with them in the future, but we pray for the royal family and hope that they grieve well, and all the best to them. So, and to all of our, like I said, all of our AV Brits and all their loved ones and whoever is grieving at this moment.
So my favorite fun thing, the one fact I know about her is that during the war, she trained as a mechanic and a driver. And I found that to be incredibly fascinating, because in my lifetime, she was the gold standard for kind of properness, being proper, and to have seen like some footage of her as she was training as a mechanic was fascinating. And it was an amazing time during World War II in particular. And it's just I think that just puts her in such a wonderful light throughout her life. So
yeah. Oh yeah. And I found out also today that she was really fond of sailing. And I didn't realize that. And one of the few times that she was emotional on television or anything, that was when they retired the Royal Yacht in like 97 or something like that. Like she was visibly emotional at that moment of retiring that, because she knew that there was going to be no more sailing. And so I was like, wow, I was like, I never knew that. So
you can go tour that yacht. One of the perks that Mechdyne has a lot of times when they are going to send you places, I've asked to have my flight to the site moved a couple of days early, and I'll pay for the hotel and do some sightseeing. And so one trip we were doing some work in Aberdeen, which is close to where the castle was that she actually passed away at today. But I had our travel coordinator fly me into Edinburgh. And at Edinburgh, you can go tour that royal yacht and walk around it. And it's like permanently placed by the mall, and you can walk across and see the engine room and the places that she called home for many, many times. And this was really before air travel was really as prominent as it is now. But like they did many tours on that yacht, and yeah, she loved it, and I would highly recommend touring it if you ever get a chance to go over to Edinburgh.
fascinating.
well, it's on my bucket list to head over to there. So we'll see if that happens. So, but I'm sure we would have very many fond memories from our friends across the pond if they were with us today. Unfortunately, the time difference makes it a little difficult for us to record with them. It's only happened a couple of times maybe, and one time was because Kevin Talbot just happened to drop by the booth while we were there at Infocom. So, oh, excuse me, Lord Kevin Talbot would drop by in.
What, they don't want to jump on a 2 a.m. call? I'm shocked.
Well, Tom Milner will, because I swear that man never sleeps. So
yeah, I know.
I don't know how he does it, but to each their own. and it did happen once. There was an AV Life, AV Jam crossover episode about 5 years ago, and we recorded at like 8:30 in the morning over here. So at least it was close to, at least it was in the afternoon out there. So
Tea time.
yes, tea time. Yes. Well, we couldn't have interrupted that, but All right. So again, we send our condolences across the pond. Murphy, take it away with our PM minute. We're gonna go switch gears and bring us back into some fun. So go ahead.
Okay. When it comes to doing a project, it's a project because it takes a lot of people. If it were just one person, it wouldn't be much of a project. You'd just be something you were doing, right? But when it comes to a project, you have to bring all the people together and they all have something to add. As the project manager, I'm leading it and I really need information from everybody else. So it's just to remember, I got 2 ears and 1 mouth. I need to do a lot of listening. Even when somebody has like, gonna ramble on for a long time, I still need to capture what they need to tell me. And I need to keep my ears open because all my team has the information that I need. I don't have it all. There is no way that I have it all. So I need to hear what they've got to say in order to be able to direct the motion of the project. So keep your ears open.
I like that. Yes. And I will say, so I've got one coworker who is a rambler. So he likes to talk. That's fine. Like I let him do his talking. He doesn't quite get the social cues sometimes of I'm busy. Let's keep this moving, or like, let's wrap this up. But it's a tough thing sometimes to be able to like siphon out the things or filter out the things that really matter. Like he's saying a lot and there may be extra fluff, but it's getting to that core nugget of information, and because it's in there and you have to listen. And so yeah, you have to always listen intently, even to the ramblers, because it's in there. There's an important piece in there. They just like to add to it.
Yeah,
I think
that can definitely happen.
It's also very challenging when, you're in that big meeting and, the part that you're involved with may only be a fraction of it, but you have to sit there and learn about all the fascinating color choices of the furniture that will be installed, or how exciting it is that the HVAC system will only produce 42 decibels of audio, or all these unrelated things, yet you have to just absorb it and try to find some joy out of it. But it's always a learning opportunity. And I love going into some of those conversations where you learn about things that you had never anticipated, or, when they ask questions like, how can we hide the projector in this space? Can we build a enclosure around it? And it's like, we could do that. What's your budget?
Yeah,
0.
exactly. Yeah.
It's 0. Oh, then
Got
no.
many fine possibilities. How much will you want to spend?
How much would you like to spend? And, but again, it's great to be able to collaborate with people that are open to collaboration.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. I was to say, James, I'm sure you've had a lot of that over with the new building as of late.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot to take in, a lot of communication, a lot of interacting with different trades and programs, and how we're going to do certain things. It's a lot of operational work to work out.
Are you finding it like that people are, it's easy to make little mistakes with these big projects? I think it's, no matter, again, I'm thinking back to a project that was multi-building, and we had one of the best program managers I have ever interacted with, but still things slip past anyone. And it's just, you wonder, are there projects out there that they get to that like 99% of non-issues? And I don't know if it's even possible, because again, the person, she was working on the project in just an A plus class of program manager or project manager, and little subtle things still crept through.
Well, there's a famous statistic that the Project Management Institute, owner of the PMP in PMBOK, said that only a third of all projects are on time, on scope, and on budget. So, there are plenty that fall through the cracks.
Oh yeah.
I would say I'd love to see what that percentage of higher ed projects are that have ever fallen on budget, on time, because I very seldom hear about that. So
On budget's a big one as well, because I've been involved with projects where the initial budget for a very large AV installation, where there's quite a bit going on, and they'll say, oh, our budget's $100,000. And back of the envelope, I'm like, it needs to be 2.5, like 250 is kind of the base. And we need to maybe claw back some of the functionality to get there. And, you get this kind of, deer in the headlights, and then you put a spreadsheet together and you just add up the column, and boom, you're easily into the 200,000 range. So
yeah.
Well, you put an LED wall in, and there's your budget. Like,
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
So,
It's always the LED
Well, that's-
wall.
Yeah.
yeah.
Go
So
ahead,
I got
James.
2 comments. The first one, going back, sorry, I got kicked off. Connection out here is not the best. So going back to about the projects, having issues and stuff. I actually had a buddy who does construction. He has built probably in his lifetime close to 1 million to billion homes, like over the course of a year, his lifetime as contractor. He said every single one he's ever done, he has made a mistake. Like you find something that you make a mistake in. Like you said, this is someone who has tons of builds under his belt, and he's like, well, none of them, not one has gone 100% accurate. The budget thing, I feel, and this is going off my 14 years of higher ed, I feel most of the time the budget issue happens because, sadly, I want to say, people grab higher ed by the horns and hold them accountable, because they'll come in lowball saying, oh yeah, we could do it for $1 million, and then it's like, oh wait, no, we need to put this change order in. Oh no, wait, we got to put this change order in, and now you're in the 2-3 million, and the school's already like, wait, we got this going on, we can't revisit, so you have to pay the change order fees.
Oh, that evil term, change order. That's nightmares right there of, oh, but now we need to put it in a change order, and now we're on revision 9, and it's like,
Yep.
This is, and then having to like that, not only the cost that's involved in that, but then from a just a management standpoint of being like, okay, now what version are we on? And it's like, okay, what did we change from here to there? And making sure you stay on top of this is a whole project management thing in and of itself, just keeping your ducks in a row of those change order requests and where you are, especially lately. I'm sure with supply chain issues being the way they are, is that, that change orders have been coming out like, giving them out like candy. It's like, hey, here you go. Let's change this. Let's change that. You get a change order. You get a change order. So
one of my favorite, and unfortunately, this is going to come very salesy, and I apologize, but one of my favorite things about Mechdyne is that even from the higher ups, we try so hard to not do change orders as much as possible. We try to get it all right on the pre-sales side, so that once the client does sign on the dotted line, they know exactly what they're getting. The only time that we ever really do a change order is if there actually legitimately is a change in scope. If it's something that, hey, we're adding a room or a display is changing or something like that, where the client is initiating it, then we will go the change order route, but not like we have some statistic. It's like less than one change order per project, and
Mm.
it's something that we strive really hard to not do as much as possible.
I agree. I think there are companies who do that, and that's great. Like MacDon does that. I'm sure there's many others. I have actually no integrator as well that they do their best to, put their ducks in a row, that there are very little to no change orders. But then you have others who you feel they know how to play the game, especially in higher ed. Everyone knows higher ed, you go with the lowest bidder. Now, that's not always true. Like there's ways to DQ the lowest bidder, and past history with them is one way to DQ a lowest bidder. Knowing that, hey, no, they're going to throw in all these change orders, so they're not holding true. But I think a lot of companies do that. They know the higher ed, they're going to go with the lowest bidder, so they come in low and then build it up high. I mean, my mom actually had a friend who was going with a contractor for the home who was like MacDon, who basically she wanted her bathroom renovated. So she had a lot of companies come in who surveyed the bathroom, saw the scope of work. It's like, all right, and gave pricing. So she reviewed them all, went with who she saw, was the best company, who actually turned out to be the best company. While they're doing the work, they're doing something on the exterior wall, and the whole wall collapsed. Turned out that there was old rotted wood and all that stuff. So my mom's friend's like, oh my God, how much is this going to cost me? The contractor told her nothing. He's like, I missed it in my inspection. It's on me, and replaced it at no cost. How many other companies would have done that? They would be like, oh, this is a whole nother project, blah, 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 and really racked it up.
Yeah.
This guy covered it.
I was gonna say that's huge that they did that. I could share a similar story with my in-laws, but they weren't so lucky that they,
I got
yeah.
the other
Yeah.
end of that stick.
yeah. And the crew, they know my backstory on that, and I don't need to bore our listeners with that. So
I think there's also, like, in higher education, there is failure avoidance, which happens quite frequently, where the solution to avoiding a failure is just start loading in more money into the project. And usually it's some bleeding edge technology, like we're going to put in a 3D hologram. And, the person, the end user doesn't truly understand what the technology is. The integrator may have a good partner, but still not, it might be their first one or the second time they've ever done one. And the building is some kind of unique space. And, it's like a slow train wreck where the solution ultimately is just keep fueling money into it until it gets completed, because the worst thing you could have is a failure. And, I think in more of a for-profit private company, you would see them say, we're not going to do this, we're just going to stop. Where I feel on occasion, and I've seen little projects, maybe not on that scale, but at a smaller scale, where the solution is just keep spending money and the problem will go away.
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with you there.
Well, and I've also seen it where they don't funnel more money in, they take money from other parts, and those other parts then suffer. How we were just talking about how, like, new buildings and
Value engineer.
paint choice. Well, yeah, I hate that term. That term got me into one project that we got brought into late. We're still working on straightening out that project, and unfortunately it was for a very good organization within Rutgers, and I'm not going to say which one because we're still working out the details, and I don't want to do anything about that on this episode. But it's just unfortunate because decisions were made in the middle of the project before we as AV professionals were brought in. And now we're left with these decisions to make it work with what has now going on. And now we're spending more money to fix the issues that were value engineered in the first place.
Yep.
But what I was going to say is that when I was a part of another project, the construction costs went higher, so they took it from the furniture. So there was all this plan to have all
Sit
these
on the
great
floor?
spaces for, well,
There's
there were
just
these great,
BYOC.
just one
bring your own
chair, just one chair. It was a folding chair. Very
almost,
nice,
yeah.
very nice, but
stand.
Well, they put all they put all the floor cores in to have tables with power for the students to sit and congregate outside of the classrooms. And then they cut the furniture budget. So there's all these floor cores now that don't have any tables around them, or they picked out the cheaper table, which
Big
then got
deal.
broken 6 months in after the building opened. And it's like you
doing?
sacrificed for other things instead of, that's the time when you put more money into it. You
It's
don't.
like the
So-
Las Vegas Convention Hall where there weren't any chairs anywhere to sit on.
Well, yes, that's
Well,
true. Yes.
there was different talks about that. That some people actually think that might have been COVID related, that they didn't put them out purposely because of COVID. I've heard a lot of different rumors
Mhm.
on that, but going with what Tim was saying, there was a university in New Jersey, and I will say it was not Rutgers, and it was not the one I worked for, but was another university in New Jersey who opened a brand new building, and no lie, a year later had to put $1 million into that new building because they went cheap in the beginning, and toilets were breaking, doorknobs were falling off, all this stuff was done very poorly, and they had to put another $1 million into a brand new building 1 year later.
I'm not going to say who, but I think I know who you're talking about, James.
Yeah, yep.
Okay. I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to say that I do have a chapter in my upcoming book, the AV Project Management Handbook, on making the change order your friend. So this is from the perspective of
Well, you had a blog about that, didn't you, at one point?
well, yes, I'm repurposing it. Yeah.
Oh,
So that was one of the hey,
Nice.
reuse, recycle. That's one of the articles that was in rave pubs. So, and I think it's a good one. So you can check it out early there if you want to do a search on that one. And it really has a lot to do with going over the details.
Yeah, and yes, I agree. I wish we as a department have gotten better about putting out all of our details and knowing in advance what the cost of something is going to be. It's unfortunately, it's the other side when we get brought in and they're saying, here's the budget already. And you go, yeah, that's not going to work. Because some architects or some planner for the architect who is the AV designer, and as I'm putting air quotes up for those who are not watching on YouTube, they came up with this budget line, and maybe they're based out of, I don't know, like Kentucky, and it's not as expensive to do work down there, but we are in the New York City metro area, so it is more expensive to do things here in this area. So
Things take more time to happen.
yes,
Yeah, and also I think what it is, a lot of times they go with the cheaper parts, because this again reminds me of a project I was doing at a school in New Jersey. We had a new building come up, and it wasn't even AV gear, because we, as a university, I want to say we did a very good job at putting our standards out there and saying, I can care less where you buy it from, as long as it's this model number, it's this part number, and all that stuff. So you were getting the quality you wanted. And I remember sitting in a project meeting, and the architect or the GC, I forget who it was of the project, was going to our uh, lot shop guys so he's like, oh, I see you guys spec these hinges. We want to go with these hinges. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And they're like, well, why not? They're cheaper. He's like, yeah, they won't last that long. He's like, this is why we go with these. And we, as a university, they did a good job, and we didn't have many of those, cheap parts because we put the part numbers in. Like, I can care less where you buy, part A, as long as it's part A.
Right. Yeah, and I wish other departments and other like facilities would do that with their standards for like lighting and things like that, because then I wouldn't end up with Joe Schmo electrical control, and then my application developer spending months trying to figure out what the API is, because he has to go through a web browser to get to the control panel to call up a lighting scene, and hope it doesn't get an update in the during the time we're running. So
Well, right now it's probably even the worst. Now, like James was talking about how he's got, like, you guys all have your standard components that you use for most of your rooms. Well, with the supply chain issues right now, like, I've got a lot of clients coming, well, hey, you were going to use this set of HD-Base-T extenders that aren't available right now. I found this set of HD-Base-T extenders on Amazon that are of half the cost. Let's try to use those. Well, we've found that whenever we've done that, we end up often troubleshooting more, spending time troubleshooting, that it ends up offsetting the cost of if we just bought the right thing in the beginning.
The hidden cost. Yep. I actually remember the hidden cost thing, because I actually took it on myself. I was researching it, changing from one manufacturer to another, to try to save money and stuff for the university. And so I did a lot of research into it. And one of the things was, when I was talking to my boss about the whole, he thought the other company was cheaper as well. I was like, yeah, dollar to dollar, it might be cheaper. But I go, our whole team knows how to support and manage this other equipment. I go, we go to some other company, this is all new. It's like, we got to train, spend money for training, spend time for training. That resource, that's money right there. So yeah, those hidden costs are a lot of times people do not take into account that need to take into account.
I have just two quick little comments on that. I think one, the facilities people, it really behooves them to collaborate extensively with the AV people, because there are so many opportunities for mutual wins just on, the facility people. They just want to get the project done. At the end of the day, they want to get it done on time, within budget, etc. And if you can work together with them, you can start, for the most part, speccing out hardware that is already on campus, that and is true and tested, etc. And I would say the second part of that is, I am shocked when new buildings are built that they will calculate the custodial staff using a formula as to how many custodial staff you should have for a building, yet they don't do that same mathematical kind of equation with AV technicians. And you will have this huge, beautiful new building. You'll have a front desk person, you'll have custodial staff, you'll have all these kind of, people hired based on a formula. And then there's no AV person for the first 6, 12, 18 months. And then they bring them in. And by that point, the AV system has been, is usually in some state of failure. And then they have to come in and fix it all up. So I think if there was more communication between those two groups, especially in higher education, you'd have a lot more wins early on, especially, again, that first couple of conversations as the idea of a new building is happening. There are just so many wins there.
Well,
I completely. And like I said in the chat, Richard, from your lips to like whoever's listening's ears, because that is 100% accurate. Like, if they listen to us, if we could get them, if we could be even 6 months earlier into the project, that would make a huge difference. And then, yeah, if you're going to add 30 classrooms onto my docket by doing a brand new building, I need at least one more technician in order to manage that. So you need to let me know so I could get that person and then get them in line to get them up there. Now, whether they hire that person is a whole nother story, and that's a whole nother higher ed conversation.
Agreed.
No,
They just see,
sorry for
hey,
another
here's
time.
more. What's that?
Another story for another time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
Go
part
ahead,
of the
Aaron.
problem is, though, there isn't really a good formula for custodians. There, you can say, well, maybe they need to vacuum X number of square feet a week. They need to clean X number of bathrooms a week. So that's how they determine that. Whereas in AV, I think it was Mark Coxon a number of years ago made an article about one of the worst ways that he's been asked sometimes, well, how many dollars of AV should I consider per square footage in a building? And it's like, you can't do that, because
I think you
have,
can, though. I think you could do it.
absolutely you can't. You can't. And here's why. I can have a square foot be $1 million based on what's in it, or it could be $2 by having just paging. If I have an entire building that all it is background music and paging, it's going to be a very cheap building than if I start putting LED walls on the walls.
Agreed. But I think if there was a formula where you could add, these are classrooms, this is an auditorium, you're not going to get, it's not going to be perfect, obviously. Neither is the custodial calculations that they do, but it's got to be better than, I don't know, 1, 2 people.
Well,
Because
yeah,
a
that's
lot of the
what-
time it's 0.
Yeah, because that's what you have to you there's that, and this is, yes, this is another conversation that maybe we need to bring Mark. I think that sounds like
That's
we
a
need to
great
bring
idea.
Mark in, and we need to have this discussion about and Richard, you can come back too. We could talk about whether there's a calculation to be made here, because yeah, if you're taking into account the technology, if you're taking in the PM that comes along with the technology, you're talking about support of that technology for usage for end user type. I mean, there's numbers there, like everything is calculable.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Calculable. Yeah.
The
We'll go with it.
the variable we're missing though, and I've had this conversation with people. We are our worst enemies. And what I mean by that is, yes, our schools will add more rooms, more AV technology, and we say we need more help for this. But we also know the show goes on, and we make it work.
You strap
They
on a
don't know
cape
that
and
we
do
might
it.
be pulling. Yeah,
Mhm.
they don't know we might be pulling 80 hours, and we go home and pulling our hair out. They don't see it because we make it work. Like
Don't
you
see
take
it
a
until people
janitor,
start
for
leaving.
example. Yeah, when things start failing, is then they're like, well, why didn't you tell us sooner when that you needed help? And you did, but they don't see it because we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah, that's true,
Hmm.
James. You're totally right.
Yeah, I think yeah, and I'm oh, see, now I'm all amped up on this. We need to, yeah, I think this is for another episode of the AV Life, and we will bring that all together. I know Murphy's got to get rolling, so we're going to close up shop here for tonight. Richard, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure having you on, and you made it all the way to the end, so we didn't scare you off or anything like that.
No, good.
I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call. Thank you.
Yeah, and Richard, if selectively, you could let our listeners know where they can find you out there in the digital realm.
Yeah, like I am a kind of an addicted LinkedIn person, so please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's great to chat through that. I'm also dipping my toe into Twitter with my AV handle is AV Miser, and feel free to email me at richardmitchell@biamp.com.
All right. Well, yeah, and we can I think we can handle getting you a few more followers. You're a little light there. We're gonna fix that. So get ready for the tweet storm. I'm just gonna warn you right now.
Gotta poke that
It's gonna
bear.
get messy. It's gonna get messy real fast, especially if Joe Way gets involved.
I
Oh,
hope
boy.
you can turn off notifications.
Yeah,
I'm working
actually,
on it right now.
I'm gonna tell you, yeah, you should do that now, and then by the time this episode releases, then you go back and actually, no, wait,
Don't do
Go
it,
back,
and then
don't-
that'll be my notification. It just went live. Got it.
exactly, yes, there you go, yeah, because that's when more followers are gonna come your way. So, and then Aaron Peterson, thank you very much for joining us as well as always.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. You can find me on Twitter at _AVAP. If you want to email me directly, you can email me at aaron.peterson@mechdyne.com.
And to Murphy and James, always a pleasure. And I love having you guys as my crew members. Thank you so much for being here and supporting us over the years. And yeah, we're back here. We're kicking going forward. So enjoy the rest of your week, listeners, and same to my crew. And until our next adventure.